You probably grew up believing canned food was the ultimate backup plan, cheap, convenient, and always there when the fridge runs empty. But here's the truth nobody at the grocery aisle will tell you. Some of those shiny cans could quietly sabotage your health, especially once you've crossed your 50s. High sodium that spikes blood pressure, healthy salt substitutes that can stop your heart, chemicals in the can lining that Europe has already banned, even invisible bacteria that thrive in low-acid foods. For retirees on a fixed income or families trying to stretch every dollar, these risks feel like a cruel trick. You think you're saving money, but in reality, you might be paying with something far more expensive, your long-term health. The scary part? The worst dangers don't smell funny or taste off. They sit quietly on the shelf until one wrong meal tips the balance. So in today's breakdown, we'll uncover 7 canned foods that aren't worth the gamble and 2 safe pantry heroes that actually deserve a spot in your kitchen. Stick around. You'll want this checklist before your next grocery run. Avoid number 7, canned fruit in syrup. It looks so harmless. Peaches, pears, or a colorful fruit cocktail glistening in syrup, promising a quick dose of sweetness. But let's call it what it really is, a sugar bomb in disguise. 1 cup of fruit cocktail in heavy syrup delivers over 40 grams of sugar. That's 11 teaspoons, dumped straight into your bloodstream. For younger bodies, maybe it just means an energy spike. But for seniors juggling diabetes, blood pressure, or heart meds, it's like lighting a match next to a gas tank. Even light syrup is nothing more than thinner sugar water. The USDA doesn't define it as healthy, just less concentrated. And when daily added sugar creeps above 17% of calories, studies show the risk of heart disease death jumps by nearly 40%. Push it higher, and that risk triples. Think about it. Every spoonful of syrup is silently adding fuel to long-term damage. But sugar isn't the only villain. The can itself often carries hidden baggage. Many are lined with epoxy resins containing BPA or its cousins BPS and BPF, chemicals Europe already banned in 2024. Tests still find them even in so-called BPA-free cans. Add in recalls from recent years, cans of pears tainted with lead and cadmium, or glass shards in fruit cocktail, and suddenly your nostalgic dessert starts looking like a hazard report. And don't forget the bright cherry sitting on top. For decades, it carried red dye number 3, an artificial color the FDA finally banned after studies linked it to cancer. Some brands switched, others didn't. That cheerful garnish could be a red flag, literally. So what's the move? Drain, rinse, and replace. If you absolutely need canned fruit, pick versions in water or 100% juice. Better yet, grab frozen fruit. No syrup, no BPA linings, just real produce locked at peak freshness. It tastes better, lasts longer, and doesn't turn your bloodstream into candy. Would you trade a moment of sweetness for a lifetime of health risks? Or is it finally time to kick syrup-soaked fruit off your pantry shelf? Avoid number 6, canned pasta. Pop the lid, and the smell of tomato sauce and soft noodles comes rushing out. It feels comforting, almost nostalgic, like a childhood lunch pulled straight from a red-labeled can. But peel back that warm memory, and what you've really got is an ultra-processed trap engineered to survive years on a shelf, not to nourish your body. A single cup of canned ravioli hides around 740 milligrams of sodium. Some cans climb past 1,300. And let's be honest, nobody eats half a serving. For seniors on blood pressure meds or diuretics, that one bowl can wipe out your entire day's safe sodium allowance before you even think about adding crackers or bread on the side. A reduced sodium versions don't save the day either. Many swap the salt for potassium chloride, which sounds harmless until you're on ACE inhibitors or kidney meds. Suddenly, that healthy label can push your blood chemistry into dangerous heart rhythm chaos. And that's just the salt. Look at the ingredient list. Starch thickeners, sugar, corn syrup, phosphate additives to keep the meatballs springy. Doctors warn phosphates accelerate kidney damage, stiffen arteries, and weaken bones. Silent hits that build up year after year. Toss in nitrites to preserve color, and you've got a known carcinogen stamped family dinner. Then comes the packaging. Acidic tomato sauce eats away at the epoxy lining, pulling BPA, BPS, and BPF into your food faster than almost any other canned product. Europe banned BPA outright in 2024. Here the FDA shrugs. The irony? That sweet sauce you thought was safe for kids might be the most efficient chemical delivery system in the pantry. The truth is, canned pasta sells nostalgia, not nutrition. If you want comfort food without the chemical roulette, cook dry pasta, add jarred low-sodium tomato sauce, toss in frozen veggies, and freeze portions for later. It's cheaper per serving, tastes better, and won't hammer your kidneys in silence. So the question is, are you feeding your family a meal or swallowing a factory formula in disguise? Avoid number 5, Vienna sausages. Crack open a can of Vienna sausages and the warning signs hit before you even take a bite. The sharp metallic smell, the gelatinous broth on top, the pale spongy links that collapse under your fork. For some, it's nostalgia in a can. But for anyone over 50, it's a health trap disguised as comfort food. Start with sodium. One small can packs anywhere from 100 to over 1,000 milligrams, half to 3/4 of what the American Heart Association says you should eat in an entire day. And let's be honest, who eats half a can? Most people down the whole thing with crackers. For retirees on blood pressure meds or diuretics, that's not lunch. It's an ambush on your heart and kidneys. Even the so-called reduced sodium versions still cross 700 milligrams. Reduced just means 25% less than the original, not safe. Then comes the cruel twist. Some brands replace salt with potassium chloride. Fine for a teenager, but for older adults with kidney disease, it can send blood potassium sky high, pushing your heart into dangerous rhythm chaos. The National Kidney Foundation flat out warns against it. Add to that the nitrites that keep the sausages pink. Those nitrites form nitrosamines, chemicals the World Health Organization calls known carcinogens. Layer in phosphate additives that quietly strain kidneys and stiffen arteries, and you're stacking silent damage bite by bite. And don't forget the packaging risk. Vienna sausages are a low-acid canned food, relying on perfect factory sterilization. If the seal fails, botulism can slip in. Invisible, tasteless, deadly. In 2023, more than 2 million pounds of canned meat, including Armour Vienna sausages, were recalled after packaging defects raised that exact fear. Even when the seal holds, the can lining itself often contains BPA or its chemical cousins. The truth is, these little links are not harmless snacks. They're compact bundles of sodium, nitrites, additives, and packaging chemicals, all aimed at the weak spots of aging bodies. Swap them out for tuna with mashed beans or soft scrambled eggs, and you'll get protein without gambling with your heart. So next time you see those tiny sausages on sale, ask yourself, is nostalgia worth the risk? Avoid number 4, canned chili. A cold night, a steaming bowl of chili straight from a cowman. It sounds like the ultimate shortcut comfort. But hidden under that layer of beans, meat, and spice is one of the riskiest cans in the grocery aisle. Why? Because chili sits in the low-acid danger zone of food science. That means it takes extreme sterilization, 240 to 250 degrees under pressure, to kill spores of Clostridium botulinum. Miss that step at the factory, and your cozy dinner turns into a silent vial of paralysis. In 2007, a botched batch of commercial chili sauce did exactly that, triggering a nationwide recall and hospitalizations. Even when the seal holds, canned chili is a sodium bomb in disguise. 1 cup hovers around 1,000 milligrams of sodium. Eat the whole can, as many do, and you've blown through half your safe daily allowance in a single sitting. Reduce sodium? Don't celebrate. Many swap the salt for potassium chloride, a time bomb for anyone over 50 on ACE inhibitors, ARBs, or diuretics. That healthier label can trigger dangerous heart rhythm issues without warning. Then come the phosphate additives, used to keep the meat chunks springy and uniform. Doctors warn these phosphates overload kidneys, stiffen arteries, and quietly weaken bones. Damage you won't feel until it's too late. Layer in preservatives, thickening starches, and chemical liners coated with BPA or its cousins, and you're basically eating a chemistry experiment. Europe already banned BPA in food packaging in 2024. Here in the US, regulators still shrug. But the truth is clear, every spoonful carries risks that stack up in silence, especially for older adults managing blood pressure, kidney disease, or brittle bones. If you love chili, there's a safer path. Make your own in a slow cooker with rinsed canned beans, fresh tomatoes, and lean ground turkey or beef. Batch cook and freeze portions. You'll spend less per serving, cut the sodium in half, and ditch the chemical cocktail. So the question is, do you want your chili to warm your soul, or test your luck with science's deadliest gamble? Avoid number 3, canned soup. Nothing feels cozier than cracking open a can of soup on a cold evening. Tomato, chicken noodle, creamy mushroom. But behind that comfort in a can is a trap waiting for anyone over 50. The first danger is invisible. Botulism. Low-acid soups like chicken noodle or beef stew must be processed at exact times, temperatures, and pressures. Miss the sweet spot, and spores survive. Once sealed, the can becomes an incubator. No smell, no warning. That hiss when you open it could be dinner or disaster. The CDC's rule is blunt. If a can spurts, bulges, or leaks, throw it out sealed. No sniff test, no taste test, just trash it. Then comes the sodium hit. A half cup of condensed tomato soup carries about 480 milligrams of sodium. But who stops at half a cup? A normal bowl delivers over 1,000 milligrams in one sitting. Chicken noodle and vegetable beef go higher, 600 to 900 milligrams per serving. That's nearly an entire day's worth for seniors trying to keep blood pressure in check. And don't fall for reduced sodium labels. They just mean 25% less than the original. Still dangerously high. And here's the sneaky twist. Many brands cut sodium by adding potassium chloride, marketed as potassium salt. For healthy kidneys, fine. For older adults on ACE inhibitors or ARBs, that's a recipe for hyperkalemia. High potassium that can literally stop the heart. The National Kidney Foundation warns directly against it, yet it hides in soups stamped healthy choice. As if that wasn't enough, the can itself may betray you. For decades, soup cans were lined with BPA-based epoxy. Europe slashed safe limits in 2023 and banned BPA in 2024. The US FDA still looks the other way, and BPA-free often just means swapped for BPS or BPF, chemical cousins with the same hormone-disrupting baggage. Bottom line, the bowl that feels like comfort food is often just a chemical cocktail wrapped in salt. If you crave soup, go for carton-packaged, low-sodium versions, or make big batches at home and freeze them. It tastes better, saves money, and doesn't gamble with your blood pressure. So ask yourself, does that warm bowl comfort your heart or quietly strain it? Avoid matouille. Canned spinach. Popeye made spinach famous as a symbol of strength. But crack open a can today and what spills out isn't leafy power. It's a soggy green lump swimming in brine that smells more like tin than earth. For seniors hoping for a superfood boost, canned spinach is less hero and more silent saboteur. The biggest threat hides in the soil itself. Spinach is a natural magnet for heavy metals, especially cadmium, which lingers in farmland. Cooking doesn't burn it off. Canning doesn't wash it away. It stays. Over decades, cadmium builds quietly in kidneys and bones. Europe sets strict weekly limits. The World Health Organization goes further with monthly caps. The message is simple. Even small exposures add up over 15 years. But metals aren't the only concern. 1 cup of canned spinach can hammer you with 700 milligrams of sodium, nearly a third of your day's budget gone in a few forkfuls. No salt-added cans still carry around 200 milligrams naturally. And when companies cut salt, they often swap in potassium chloride. For anyone on kidney or blood pressure meds, that swap can trigger dangerous heart rhythm swings. And spinach brings baggage of its own. It's loaded with oxalates, the crystals that fuel kidney stones, and high levels of vitamin K, which can throw off blood thinners like warfarin. Seniors juggling multiple prescriptions may find that one small can creates a balancing act their doctors never warned them about. The packaging doesn't help either. Spinach is a low-acid food, the perfect breeding ground for botulism if factory sterilization falters. You'll never taste or smell the toxin. The CDC's rule is clear. If a can bulges, leaks, or looks dented at the seam, don't open it. Toss it, sealed. Bottom line, spinach should be a powerhouse. But canned spinach piles cadmium, sodium, oxalates, vitamin K hazards, and chemical linings into one limp gray compromise. Frozen spinach gives you all the nutrients without the sludge or the chemical roulette. So what's stronger, Popeye's spinach or your willpower to say no to a soggy can? Avoid number one, canned tuna. For decades, canned tuna has been the budget-friendly protein of choice, packed in lunches, tossed into casseroles, and praised for its omega-3s. But open that shiny lid today, and you might be exposing yourself to a toxic cocktail hidden in plain sight. The first danger lurks in the fish itself, mercury. Light tuna, skipjack, carries less, but albacore, often labeled white, can have 3 times more. Mercury doesn't leave your body quickly. It builds up in the brain and kidneys year after year. For retirees, that's a slow, invisible drip toward memory problems, tremors, and kidney strain. You won't notice until it's too late. Then comes the curveball, histamine poisoning. If tuna warms on the dock before canning, its natural histidine converts into histamine, and no amount of cooking can destroy it. That means your tuna melt could trigger flushing, a racing heartbeat, and an ER trip that looks like a heart attack. And yes, botulism remains a rare but brutal risk. In 2025, dozens of tuna brands were recalled after easy open lids raised fears of contamination. Botulinum toxin has no smell, no taste, and no second chances. But the danger doesn't stop with the fish. The can lining itself is a hazard. For years, cans were coated with BPA-based epoxy. Even BPA-free labels often hide chemical cousins like BPS or BPF, linked to hormone disruption and higher mortality. Europe slashed safe limits and banned BPA outright in 24. The US? Still shrugging. Add the sodium story. A drained can still carries hundreds of milligrams. Reduced sodium versions? Many sneak in potassium chloride, a deadly trap for older adults with kidney disease or on ACE inhibitors. One healthy tuna sandwich could send your blood chemistry into chaos. So what's the alternative? Stick to light like skipjack tuna in water, limit servings, and mix it with beans or veggies to stretch nutrition while cutting exposure. Even better, try canned salmon or sardines, lower in mercury and higher in omega-3s. Bottom line, canned tuna sells safety and thrift. But for seniors, it may be one of the most deceptive cans in the pantry. So will you keep trusting that easy open lid or look for safer proteins that won't gamble with your brain and heart? Safe number 2, canned beans. Not every can on the shelf is a gamble. In fact, some are quietly working in your favor, and canned beans top that list. Kidney, black, pinto, navy. These humble cans are one of the rare examples where convenience and nutrition actually line up. Here's why. Beans are packed with protein, fiber, potassium, iron, and folate, nutrients most older adults fall short on. Half a cup delivers 7 to 9 grams of protein and 6 to 9 grams of fiber, helping lower cholesterol, steady blood sugar, and keep digestion moving. Doctors constantly remind seniors to add more fiber, and canned beans put it in arm's reach, cheap and shelf-stable. Safety is another win. Beans are low-acid foods, but the industrial retort process heats them above 240 degrees, sealing out botulism. Once cooled and intact, those cans are basically vaults, sterile and safe until you open them. Compare that to deli meats or soft cheeses, which can harbor listeria even in the fridge. For seniors, beans are often the safer bet. The biggest complaint? Salt. Yes, many canned beans are loaded with sodium, but that's an easy fix. Drain and rinse under running water for 20-30 seconds. Studies show this cuts sodium by 30 to 45% instantly. Better yet, choose no salt-added versions or brands labeled BPA-NI, not intentionally added, to dodge chemical concerns. From chili to bean salads to hummus, canned beans stretch every dollar. Swap half the ground beef in your recipes for beans, and you'll cut fat, drop cost, and still keep everyone full. For retirees on fixed incomes, that's nutrition that actually pays you back. So while many cans on this list carry hidden risks, beans are proof that not every shortcut is dangerous. Drain, rinse, and you've got a pantry hero that's safe, affordable, and heart healthy. Would you skip the gassy joke if it meant protecting your heart and wallet? Most families say yes, and that's why beans belong on the shelf. Safe number one, canned tomatoes. At first glance, tomatoes in a can might seem too ordinary to deserve the spotlight. But here's the twist. Canned tomatoes are not only safe, they may actually be better for you than fresh. The secret lies in their natural acidity. With a pH below 4.6, often boosted by a touch of citric acid, canned tomatoes create an environment too hostile for Clostridium botulinum. In plain English, that high acidity makes them one of the least risky cans in the entire grocery aisle. Add to that the industrial retort process, sealed cans heated above 240 degrees, and you've got a product designed to lock out deadly toxins. As long as the can isn't bulging, leaking, or deeply dented, the risk is vanishingly low. That's why, for seniors, tomatoes are actually safer than deli meats or soft cheeses sitting in a refrigerator where listeria can thrive. But the story gets better. Heat processing doesn't strip tomatoes of nutrients. It unlocks them. Lycopene, the antioxidant that gives tomatoes their red color, becomes easier for your body to absorb once the cells are broken down. Studies show canned tomato sauce delivers more usable lycopene than raw slices on a sandwich. And when you cook it with a drizzle of olive oil, your absorption skyrockets. Of course, sodium can sneak in. Some brands drown tomatoes in brine. The fix is simple. Grab no salt added versions and season it yourself. Also check the fine print for potassium chloride. Skip those if you're on kidney or heart meds. Most cans today are labeled BPA-free or BPA-NE because tomato acidity pulls chemicals out faster, but storing them in a cool pantry, not a hot garage, keeps you even safer. From pasta sauce to chili to homemade soups, canned tomatoes are a pantry hero, safe, versatile, and surprisingly more nutritious. They're proof that not every shortcut comes with a hidden price. So here's the real question. Will you keep chasing risky cans or stack your shelf with one of the smartest staples around? So here's the bottom line. Not every can on the shelf is created equal. Some, like Vienna sausages, canned chili, or syrup-soaked fruit, pile on salt, sugar, chemicals, and hidden risks that quietly chip away at older bodies already working overtime. Others, like canned beans and canned tomatoes, prove that shelf-stable doesn't always mean dangerous. With the right choices, your pantry can be a source of health, not harm. The common thread? Inspect, rinse, replace. Inspect every can. Bulges, leaks, or deep dents mean it goes straight to the trash. Rinse when you can, beans, veggies, anything that sheds excess salt. And replace bad habits with smarter picks. Frozen fruit instead of syrupy cups. No salt added tomatoes instead of sodium bombs, beans instead of processed meat. For retirees on a fixed income or families stretching every dollar, these swaps aren't just about nutrition. They're about protecting your heart, your kidneys, and your future without breaking the budget. If this breakdown helped you see your pantry in a new light, hit like so more people can find it, subscribe for weekly food safety deep dives, and share this video with someone you care about. Because the right can could save more than money. It could save your health.